So this video begins without me recording my mic. It's actually recording my webcam. So for the first several minutes, audio is going to be coming from my camera until I start the recording on the mic. So I apologize, but I hope you guys enjoy the video. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another discussion here on Discord. Got all my boys in the chat here, and we are going to talk about Joy Division today. All two of their albums, and then a compilation and some singles, a live album that I haven't heard and whatnot. So in the chat we have Twig. Hello.
Hello.
There we go. Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
There we
Hello.
go. The classic King Contrarian who will.
So, as this Discord knows, but you too may not know, that Joy Division are my least favorite band ever. I practically despise everything that they've done and their fan base. So this is going to be fun.
This is going to be a very interesting discussion, to say the least. We have Buckeye Keese making his first voice appearance, I think.
Yep, hello.
Hello. We have good old Grand Flakes.
Yeah, hey, I'm best known for being this dude right here. Hold on. Best known for being this guy
Oh yeah, the
in the
OG.
server.
We got Minto.
Alright, I don't do this often, but I had to represent for Joy Division because, I stan. I sound like a 5-year-old girl with One Direction, but yeah.
There you go.
Anyway.
Yeah, we got some diehard Joy Division fans here, and then a diehard Joy Division hater. So this is going to be quite interesting. Speaking of Joy Division lovers, we have Ralph is back. Hello.
Hello, dzień dobry.
We got Sponge.
Hello.
We have Boss.
Hi.
And then who just woke up like 3 seconds ago. And we got Young Rust, who will be just joining us in the text chat. So this will be kind of interesting. We got we only have like one person participating in the text chat. Usually it's a little bit more, but we'll see how this goes. So anyway, where to start? How about the beginning? I'm going to skip the EP since that'll be covered in substance. So Unknown Pleasures. 1979, is that correct? I think that's correct. Yes. 39 minutes long, produced by Martin Hannett. We have 10 tracks. You'd think that I would have all of the stuff pulled up so I can read it, but I don't. So, first track, Disorder. Just these are all my own personal opinions, and we'll go through everybody and see how they feel about the album. So, this I like Closer more than Unknown Pleasures, and I kind of started my reaction series with Unknown Pleasures, and it's kind of a divisive reaction. I kind of talked over some of the tracks, and so it's not like a good objectively a good video, just because I was sort of new at it, but. I've grown to like the album a little bit more. I still prefer Closer, but with each track here, we have Disorder, good guitar tone. I think it sets the tone well for the rest of the album. Day of the Lords, great riff. It's a bit long, but it has a nice build up to it. Candidate, a little bit sparse. It's cool atmosphere, but it gets kind of old for me. Insight. Great bass riff. It's a highlight on the album for me. Nude on Fades. It's a bit too simple for my taste, but it does have a lot of emotion in the vocals. Has a great outro. She's Lost Control. It's my favorite on the album. I really like the bass riff and the vocal delivery. Shadow Play. Not bad, but a track I often kind of forget about. Sort of falls through the cracks. Wilderness. It's interesting, but it's not a favorite. Inner Zone, another it's just a little too punky for me. And then I Remember Nothing has this really cool, sparse kind of outro to end the album. So I think it's solid. I don't really ever come back to it just because it's a little too cold for me. But I do dig Insight, She's Lost Control, and then occasionally I Remember Nothing. Those are tracks I'll come back to. So. Buckeye, what do you think about Unknown Pleasures?
I would say just I mean, as a whole, with both of their albums, they're very comprehensive in their sounds.
Mm-hmm.
They set a really good atmosphere, especially in Unknown Pleasures. Like a lot of groovy tracks, especially in like the one that I always think of as Disorder. I get like surf rock vibes from it.
Interesting.
And it seems like if you never heard the band before and you just start with Unknown Pleasures, like a lot of people do, I don't feel like it's a perfect representation of the group, but
right.
I think it's a good starting off point. Like they lead you into it, like they ease you into the sound.
Sure. Do you have any favorite tracks?
It always changes. I really like New Dawn Fades just because of like the atmosphere, and like that droning sound throughout it. Yeah, I kind of like them equally. Disorder, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Gran, what do you think about Unknown Pleasures?
First of all, I like that surf rock comparison a lot. There's a lot of like punk bands that like try to emulate that same style from the 60s. So I can hear that definitely. Unknown Pleasures, I really like this album. It's kind of hard to talk about it sometimes because of everything surrounding it, like the context behind like when it was released and the production and like the whole story behind Ian Curtis and his death. But you know, removing all that, I think it just sounds really fantastic the whole way through. It kind of falls down a bit near the B-side when you have tracks like Wilderness and Interzone. You know, it had a really good energy to start off with, I feel. I think it's just, you know, and their sound, their style, I think is a very... I think their style is a very unique take on the post-punk sound that had been sort of toyed with. Like, I can hear... like, for lack of better comparison, Wire's Chairs Missing kind of reminds me of Joy Division in that they're this extremely cathartic, depressive sounding rock album with a huge emphasis on bass riffs and production, like electronic production. But they like pretty much captured the sound like perfectly off the get-go, and it's more or less just the sound of post-punk to come, which I really respect, as well as like being this sort of building block into punk leading into alternative music, with a lot of this sounding like honestly like proto-goth rock to me.
Right.
So I think that's really impressive. But it's not their best. I prefer Closer nowadays by a big margin, because of its diversity and a lot of the song topics are dealing with, and especially that B-side in comparison to the B-side on this album.
Right.
So yeah, good post-punk record. Really good.
Favorite tracks?
I really like Days of the Lords, New Dawn Fades, and I Remember Nothing. Those are like the most very overtly gothic to me.
Sure.
Which I really fuck with. I really like. I Remember Nothing. The shots of like industrial like synths and the glass breaking is very like emotionally like potent to me.
Yeah.
Glass shatters, 10 out of 10.
There's like a bunch of like sound effects of like glass shattering in like the intro, if I remember nothing, if I recall correctly.
Yeah,
That's basically it though.
Yeah.
I really like this album a lot.
Cool. Minto, what do you think of Unknown Pleasures?
I think it's pretty much as amazing as everybody makes it out to be. You know, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. But I want to get away from talking about the things everybody says. I mean, I'll bring them up in a little bit, but I want to just mention something that I don't see people really talk about. I mean, it's not that it's never been said, but it needs to be talked about more. Is that this is their debut album, and for a debut album, how well they defined their sound, which is really rare for a group to do. Because, like, if you think about like the most iconic bands in history, like, I don't know, the Beatles, Nirvana, etc., like, look at their debut albums and then look at where they came. Obviously, it's different for Joy Division because their career is so brief, but
Right.
even in their brief career, like they defined their sound so well, and it's so refined already on Unknown Pleasures. Like if you look from what they were doing in the Warsaw days and Ideal for Living and stuff like that, and then you look at where they became to Unknown Pleasures, even it's an accomplishment, and it's so original. It's such an original take on post-punk. I know it doesn't seem like such a groundbreaking album for the genre because pretty much everybody in post-punk after them has taken so much influence, basically ripped them off at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you look at like what was going on in punk and even the early stages of post-punk at that time, a lot of it was either just like punk bands, previous punk bands moving in more of a art avant-garde direction. You know, obviously John Lydon from the Sex Pistols going into Public Image Limited, and Wire, an already established punk band, going from Pink Flag to the more post-punk sounds of Chairs Missing. Gang of Four was just about to debut. The Clash were even moving into more post-punk sounds. But Joy Division definitely had a different take on it, is that it was more dark. It was a lot more cerebral. And I don't think that was necessarily something other punk bands, and especially other post-punk bands, were doing yet. And they were just like the first band. I remember this quote from Tony Wilson. They were like, I forgot the exact quote, but it was like they were the first punk band, to implement the emotion of living in northern England at that time, you know, the hellhole that he describes it at that time, and implement the emotion, the fear, the anxiety into the music. And I think that's a really unique take on post-punk for its time. The songs are just brilliant too. What the fuck? That's some pretentious shit. I don't know. Like, it's in the music, and I'm not saying it's like. I don't mean it to sound pretentious, as in like this is higher art. I just mean like this is original. Like I can't name another post-punk or punk band that was doing music exactly like this, with this sound. You know, this is just their debut album, and they're already setting the stage this well.
Mm-hmm.
Disorder's fantastic, of course. You know, one of the best openers ever. Although I do think that Atrocity Exhibition, we'll get to it when we get to it, but is a more adventurous opener. But Disorder is just a great song. It's just a great, like, I don't know, you could almost kind of call it like just straight up like stadium rock song. Obviously not in like sound, but like in structure. Like it's really just a simple little rock song. And then from there, you get the dark gothness. I don't know. It's like, it's weird to call this goth because like this came out before goth, but obviously has such a big influence on goth.
Sure.
So I guess you could call it goth. The Day of the Lords, like, goddamn. And then when Ian just like goes at the end, like, where will it end? It's so cathartic, and it's like something about Ian Curtis. He's a fantastic lyricist as well. We'll get to his, actually, I think his greatest achievement as a lyricist is on this album. But something even better is his vocal performances. It's like you feel every word that he sings, because a lot of the time it's like he was going through it, you know?
Yeah.
So it makes it even more real. And on to the greatest lyrical achievement he did is She's Lost Control. I think is not just his greatest lyrical achievement, but one of like the greatest set of lyrics of all time, because I don't think anybody has perfectly articulated their pain as well as Ian does on that song. Like when you listen to it, and especially if you see them perform that song, you could tell he feels that song. It's not just, oh, he's singing it, this song is about somebody. No, this is directly about him, his experience, because of course it is about his experience. And you know, when he worked and he saw the epileptic girl, and then of course he got epilepsy, so like he feels it, and because of that you feel it as a listener. And I feel, and you know, that's something I love most about Joy Division and Ian Curtis, is that it's like it's so easy to empathize. Like a lot of groups, it's really like you feel so far removed from their pain, even though of course they could be genuine with it, but like you don't necessarily feel it the same way that they do. But you know, with Joy Division with Ian Curtis, it's really easy to empathize with that pain, with that struggle that Ian was sadly going through. And of course, that makes it resonate with me. But musically, I don't want to just make it seem like this is just like all the appeal of it is just the depression, because I think it's musically fantastic as well. I think Martin Hannett's production on this is genius. You know, it's like this would have been a great album regardless of him, but the way he added that wall of sound to what they were doing again adds to the distinctness of Joy Division. That's basically my final thoughts. Fantastic album. Personal favorite of mine will always be. I don't know if it's better than Closer. Like, they're both equally as amazing to me. So it depends on the day, really. But yeah, Unknown Pleasure is fantastic. I'm sorry I went on for too long.
No, that's all good. Thanks, man. This was cool.
I
Yeah,
totally agree with that. Like the whole, even without the help of Martin Hannett, whatever his name is, that this would still be really great sounding. Like, you know, you can listen to the Joy Division Peel sessions to give you a taste of what that album would have sounded like without that producer's help, and it's still just very. It's still just a very unusual sound for punk. It's a very like. I'm not sure the word for it, but it's a very unusual sound for punk, even without the help of Martin Hannett.
Yeah, sure.
Excellent. All right, Ralph, what do you think? Unknown Pleasures.
Cool album. Well, I like the drums a lot because I always pay a lot of attention to drums, so I like the drumming of Stephen Morris. I like the sound of the whole album. I think it's both Joy Division albums are the perfect mix between synthetic sound and non-synthetic sound, I think. And I think also that Ian Curtis, I like him as lyricist a lot. So yeah, I like his lyrics on that one and Closer. And yeah, I don't think I can say anything more that already have been said. So yeah.
Any favorite tracks off of this album?
Well, She's Lost Control, definitely. I really like the drums. I also enjoy Insight and Disorder. I also like The Candidate, actually.
Cool. Sponge, anything to say about Unknown Pleasures?
This is a quality album. It's sad, and because of all Ian Curtis stuff, but it's not as like, it's not as cry kind of thing as Closer. I can't listen to that album many times, but that and like Closer and Caretaker are like my two cry albums. But I really enjoy a lot of Hookie's bass on this album. It sounds just quite melodic and, you know, like guitar-like, but not. You can still tell it's a bass. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say.
Cool. Sorry, I did you say any favorite tracks?
Oh, probably like She's Lost Control and New Dawn Fades. Those ones are quite nice.
Very nice. All right, Boss, Unknown Pleasures.
So I just heard this for the first time maybe at this point, maybe like a month ago, I didn't know that much about Joy Division besides how important this album is for like music.
Yeah,
and
you've been
people like it.
and you've just started your New Order journey as well recently too.
Yeah, so I was just sort of I heard all the stuff about it. I try to avoid critically acclaimed stuff because I feel like I'll be underwhelmed and disappointed by the end.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't with Joy Division. I liked both albums I heard. Although everything's probably been said about this album, I'm still just gonna repeat so I can get my opinions out there. Just the atmosphere that this album creates is just dark and foreboding. Like it's a terrifying album. It creeps me the hell out in a good way, I should say.
Yeah.
I love its minimalism. I just kind of like that about it. I also appreciate Ian Curtis as like the anti-frontman, so to speak.
Right.
I don't think he, obviously, just with who Ian Curtis was, he wasn't trying to be this big showman, but I just like him. I like his vocal delivery. I do love anti-frontmen, so to speak. Musicians that are frontmen that just are sort of outsiders.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a really good album. I do like Inner Zone, even though it sort of sticks out like a sore thumb. But there's not a ton for me to say. And then my favorite track on this is probably I Remember Nothing. I just love that track so much. Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. All right. Twig, unleash the beast.
All right, here we go. Okay. This is easily my least favorite album of all time. Okay, where do I even start with this? Let me just go to the track listing and I'll go track by track. Okay, so it starts with the Disorder. This is easily one of the most overplayed songs that I've ever heard. Whenever the intro comes in, it makes me uncomfortable because of how much I cringe from its praise and from how it makes me feel and how angry the album makes me. And then it goes into Day of the Lords, and then these next tracks up into New Dawn Fades are just awful, boring songs that literally have nothing going on for them other than that it's darkness, which is just so boring and bad. And then it goes into She's Lost Control, where people are like, oh my god, it's a spray can. So what? It's just one of the worst things ever. The bass line is overly praised. I just hate this. Shadow Play, I guess the guitar intro is cool, but geez, it's like one of the most basic songs that you can ever. Then Wilderness, that's just probably the weakest track on here. Nothing happens. It's the same exact reverb, snare, bad vocals. Interzone, this is probably my least favorite. My favorite, because it reminds me a lot of the Warsaw era stuff, which is my favorite things the band did. And then the last track, I Remember Nothing. I remember nothing from it because it's so unmemorable and it sounds like every other track from this album. Now, the thing is, I dislike an album more if it's mediocre and praised a lot rather than it being just awful, because at least I get enjoyment out of really bad things. I get no enjoyment out of this at all, and it makes me angry to listen to it, and it's so bad. I hate this.
At the very least, I feel like this might be like a good therapy session for you to just like let it all out.
Hold on, I still have more to say.
Okay.
Wait.
Okay.
So, and then we get to the issues with the production, I hate the production on this. Everything has the reverb snare, ticking drums, the bass sounds the same on every track, the vocals sound the same. I literally have listened to this probably 10 plus times, and I still can't tell you what some of the tracks sound like, because they all sound so similar. And then there's the issue with people just praising it because of the context of the record, which still doesn't make sense, because people act like, oh, this was one of the first post-punk records. When post-punk was a thing that started like 3 years before this. So that makes me even more angry. Everything about this is just bad, mediocrity, awfulness that's overrated, and I hate it.
Bam. Does anybody have
Well,
retorts?
fuck, you got us there. You got us there.
Everyone's like, man, you're right. We were wrong.
I guess I don't like it now.
Yeah, this shit is trash. 0 out of
Did I
10.
tell you guys how much I hate this album?
I hate it so much.
All right, guys, that's the end of the discussion. We don't care anymore.
Joy Division back.
Oh man! All right, great, fantastic.
Wait, hold on. Wait,
Can I
Alex.
say something real
What?
quick about what Twig said?
What?
Just generally.
What?
I respect Twig that you're very, like, you obviously king contrarian. You go. I don't know. You
Go
don't
by your
go
own
with-
rules.
Yeah, right. You don't go with what most people say, and you just form your own opinions, which is respectable. But I feel like when you were criticizing it, most of your critiques were that it's not as good as people say. Like, I didn't really hear you saying what specifically is bad about it, or
I can go into it more. Hold on. I
yeah,
can
that'd
go.
be great.
So what I said was also mediocrity and overtly praised is worse for me than just being bad. But
So do you
it
think
just-
this is like mediocre?
it just makes me mad,
Okay.
and that's why I dislike it so much.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Wow.
Look at that baller move.
That was like a mic drop.
I know. A mic disconnect.